Testing mic 1, mic 2. Hello to you. Welcome, 8th graders, to another video tutorial. Okay, today's topic is equivalent rational numbers or fractions. We talked about yesterday what is a rational number. Anything that can be expressed as a fraction. Anything that can be expressed as a fraction is a rational number. So these are rational numbers because they're fractions, but this could also be considered a rational number because you can express that as a fraction. 3 is 3 over 1. 3 is 6 over 2. 3 is 9 over 3, 9/3. Okay, let's move on. I kind of got off topic here. But we're going to talk about equivalent fractions. So here we have an illustration of 3 circles, and each one, half of the whole is shaded. But this has 2 parts, and 1 out of those 2 is shaded. This has 4 parts, and 2 out of those 4 is shaded. This has 8 parts, and 4 out of those whole is shaded. So our whole topic is knowing, or how do you know when fractions are equivalent? How do we know that? Here it's obvious by the visual drawing. You can see a half, a half, a half. But sometimes it's not quite as obvious, and so we're going to talk about how we can figure that out. So get out a pencil, get out a piece of paper. Let's discuss this topic for today. First thing I want you to write down is, what are equivalent fractions? What are equivalent fractions? Write that down. And really, these are equivalent. These are equivalent. Both of these are equivalent. 9/12 and 3/4, they are equivalent. You can see by this drawing here. If I make this bigger, you can see they're equivalent. Same thing here. 3/5 and 6/10 are equivalent. So what really are equivalent fractions? Well, they are fractions that represent the same part of a whole. That's all they are. The same part of the whole is shaded. The same part of the whole is covered up. The same part of the whole is being used. Equivalent fractions is just the same part of the whole, but expressed differently. One could be expressed in tenths, one could be expressed in fifths, but the same amount is shaded. So please write that down. Good. Then the next thing I want you to write down is, how do you know when fractions are equivalent? How do you know? Well, there's a couple ways of knowing. So, number 1, it says you can multiply the numerator and denominator by the same factor. For example, if I have this fraction, 2/3, if I multiply my numerator and my denominator by the same, I get an equivalent fraction. 2 out of 3 is the same part of the whole as 8 out of 12. How do I know that? Because I multiplied the numerator and denominator by the same factor. That's number 1. Write that down. Number 2, you could simplify the fraction as well to lowest terms. But you are dividing by the same factor when you simplify. So back to that 8/12. If I divide 8 by 4 and divide 12 by 4, I get 2/3. That is an equivalent fraction because I divided the numerator and denominator by the same divisor. Yes, I was going to say factor, but divisor. Okay, so you can simplify both fractions to lowest terms. That is another way of changing or finding equivalent fractions. And the other way of knowing if fractions are equivalent or not is just by cross-multiplying. For example, we are saying right now, we are saying that 8/12 and 2/3 equal. We're saying that, okay? You can verify that by doing the butterfly. And if you get the same product, it's equal. So here, if I cross-multiply this way, I get 24. And if I cross-multiply this way, I get 24. They are equivalent. Okay? So there's 3 ways of knowing when fractions are equivalent. Got it? Make sure you write that stuff down. Right there, see? Okay. So, 6/10 and 8/12. You guys write down an equivalent fraction, that equivalent fractions for 6/10 and equivalent fraction for 8/12. Well, you know what? We just did that, 8/12. That's weird. I just gave you the same problem. Okay, so you should already get the second one right. Just do this one then. 6/10. Give me an equivalent fraction for 6/10. And we'll discuss that tomorrow in the video tutorial. All right, let's move on. The other thing I just want to briefly discuss is finding the value of n. And this has to do with equivalent fractions though. So here, what must n equal? Well, there's a couple ways of figuring that out. To me, the easiest thing is just saying, well, 4 times what is 16? Well, that would be 4. So 5 times 4 is 20. So n is 20. Okay, so identifying what the numerator and denominator have been multiplied by or divided by. There's other ways of doing this too. There are, okay? But to me, this is the simplest way of doing this problem. And we'll actually, let's discuss this tomorrow. What are some other ways of figuring out what n is? But here, so look at this one. 3 times what is 12? Well, again, that's 4. So what number times 4 is 40? What number times 4 is 40? And that is 10. So we're saying 3/10 equals 12/40. We're saying n is 10. Again, we can verify this by doing some things. We can do the butterfly method. If we cross multiply this way and cross multiply this way, do we get the same amount? And the answer is yes. This would be 120 and this would be 120. So, questions? And then the next one here, this is a little tricky, but 5 equals 10 over what? 5 equals 10 over what? Some of you guys probably already know. You probably do. But if you don't know, think about 5 is really, if you have 5 whole, that's really 5 over 1. Well, that equals 10 over what number? Well, 5 times what is 10? 2. So 1 times 2. So what is n? n is 2. Does that make sense? Well, this is a division problem. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that works. Plus, you can do the butterfly as well. You're saying 5 over 1 equals 10 over 2. You can cross multiply. You get 10. You can cross multiply. You get 10. Okay? Questions? So, the last thing I want you to do in this quick little video tutorial is tell me what n equals in each of these problems. And I think that's it. What we're going to continue to discuss tomorrow is just quickly how to change a mixed number to improper fraction. We briefly discussed that today. And how to change an improper fraction to a mixed number, vice versa, okay? Hope you guys enjoyed this video tutorial. That lasted 7 minutes. Have a great day. Bye-bye.